go to the computer. Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first online session of 2023. And yeah, we've got an amazing talk lined up for this evening. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing it. So we shall crack on through the usual stuff so we can make a start. Yep, welcome to QABC. You can see we're on all social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We also do have a YouTube channel at some point. So this is being recorded, which will go up there. So if you're not able to make it, yes, you can catch up with this. Our usual code of conduct. QABC is always a safe space to come on. We can make it as safe as possible for anyone. Always has been, and always, as far as I'm concerned, always continue to be very much a free event for everyone to come and join. Everyone is welcome. We do ask that you do be respectful to others, their opinions. Everyone does have an opinion, so please be respectful of that. If you do have anything to say to it, please do it in a good manner, because again, I like to feel everyone is welcome and have those kind of topics. If you feel something has been said that's kind of out of line, you don't know who to speak to, please come speak to Ashley, Ken, or myself, and yeah, and we'll take it from there. However, things do get out of hand and rules are broken, then unfortunately you'll be banned from future events, which we don't want to happen. And touch wood, fingers crossed, we've never had to do that. So yeah, it's all good. And I'm going to hand over to Renka now to take it from here.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So right, if I share my screen?
Indeed, I need to hand over rights to you, and I've forgotten how to do that. I've done this a million times. Stop sharing.
Amazing.
Yeah, if you request, I think it is.
I can see the button to share screen. Yeah.
I think that one's right, yeah.
Doesn't seem to be working. It says host disabled.
Okay, that's fine. No, they want multiple participants. I do know how to add you as host. There we go.
Yeah, got it.
Try that now.
Yeah, let me, oh, yeah, I think I see something amazing. I'm going to click share.
That's one. So I forget. So if you could please, if you want to put your cameras on or choose not to, that's absolutely fine. But if you could please put yourselves on mute until at least the end of the presentation, if you wish to ask any questions, or if you do have any questions during that, please put them in the chat and we will cover them. Or if Renka presents the opportunity and requests if you have any questions, then yeah, please feel free to come off mute. And yeah, I shall hand over.
Great, thank you very much. So yeah, hello everyone, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, hopefully you've got something to eat or something to drink on as you listen to me talk about my journey. And more importantly, we're going to be talking about manual and automated testing. So yeah, let's get into it. Great. So yeah, the agenda for today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about my journey, so how I got into technology and how I got into the QA space. The challenges I faced along the way, advice I'd pass on to others who are either quite new into the industry or looking to get into QA or technology in general. I'm also going to discuss what makes, I guess, like a good quality engineer, sort of the typical traits you wouldn't normally see. And of course, I wanted to focus on manual and automated testing, and I love to talk about the power of exploratory testing. So yeah, hopefully everyone's feeling a little bit pumped after seeing this agenda. You're very comfortable and we'll get into it. So before I get into my journey, I want to tell you all a little bit about myself, just to try and add a little bit of color before I go into the tech side of things. So I currently work at Admiral. So if anyone who's not familiar with Admiral or not heard of them, they're one of the largest insurance companies in the UK. So I work as a chapter lead, and I'll explain a little bit later on what that means. But I'm I guess, the equivalent of a test manager that you might find at other places, working in software. I've been working in the testing industry for nearly 5 years now. It will be my 5-year anniversary in June. This is a Peaky Blinders reference for anyone who's watched Peaky Blinders. It's based in Birmingham, so I'm originally from Birmingham, and I'm currently based in Nottingham, so I'm a Midlands girl. I love going to the gym. I also love Harry Potter as well, so I thought this meme was like a great combination of like one of my like true loves and my form of therapy in life, which is just going to the gym. I also love food as well. So that is me scoffing a burger, anything to do with carbs, pizza, chips, burger. I'm all about it, which is probably why I love the gym, because I need an excuse to eat all that junk food because I love it so much. I'm also a big traveler as well. So if I'm not working or at the gym or having something to eat, I'm usually booking a flight somewhere. That was me away in Belgium last year at a beautiful city called Nantes, which is absolutely incredible. Would highly recommend it to anyone. And the last one is I'm very much a self-proclaimed crazy cat lady. Just to prove how crazy I am, this is actually not even my cat. This is just a cat that lives a couple roads away from me, and occasionally on my walks I try and look out for it and I'll stroke it. And I even know its name is Sammy now, so hopefully my neighbor isn't on the call because they might think I'm a bit weird right now, but yeah, crazy cat lady here. Love cats. Cool. So yeah, just that was just a little introduction about myself. So my journey into tech. So how did I start? So as I mentioned before, I am from Birmingham. I went to University of Birmingham and I decided to study maths. I went with the maths option because, like probably a lot of people, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was doing my GCSEs or A levels when I was in sixth form. So I decided, yeah, I'll just do maths. Just why not? So that was to purposely keep my options quite broad, just so when I finished my degree, I could, it gave me a little bit of a buffer, I guess, to try and figure out what I wanted to do and what route I wanted to take. Whilst I was doing my degree, a lot of the modules that came up that I quite enjoyed were sort of the financial side of things. So that's when I decided I would go down the sort of accountant and auditor route. About a year into this, I actually realized this is not for me. I could not see myself doing this for the next 50, 60 odd years until I retire. And I felt like I needed to almost take a step back from that career. And bear in mind, I was a third of a way through getting my official qualifications to become an auditor and accountant, but it just didn't feel like the right path for me and what I wanted to eventually end up doing, even if I did get qualified. So then I thought, okay, well, what else can I do with my career? I purposely chose maths so I could keep my options quite broad, try other avenues and see what else I could sort of dabble in. And that's when I sort of came across computer science, software, engineering, and I did a little bit of research into that. I did a bit of shadowing whilst I was at my current job in the tech department, just to try and get a feel for, is this something I would like to pursue? So after doing a little bit of that and actually realizing this could be something I'm interested in and something I do want to take on and something that was quite different to what I currently did, I decided to go down a route with FDM. So for anyone who's not familiar with FDM, essentially what they do is they take on people who don't have any experience in sort of the computer science background. They'll take on people maybe doing a career change, like I was myself, people who are returning to work, maybe from maternity leave, for example, or veterans who are looking to get into the technology sector. Quite a few similar schemes FDMs are around the globe, like Sparta, for example. So what they do in this process is you usually have 10 to 12 weeks of training. In that time, I learned stuff around HTML, CSS, Linux, Java, Agile. It was quite intense. Every week there was something new to learn. There was assessments, presentations, exams, projects that we had to build and present back. So it was quite an intensive 11 weeks of my life. But it was just something I signed up for when I wanted to do it. And as you're doing that training, you get interviewed by various companies and they get to decide if they want to take you on for whatever position they want to fill at that time. I was very fortunate enough to be interviewed by Capital One, and they decided to take me on as a quality engineer. And that was sort of very much the beginning of my career, I guess, in testing and everything to do with quality. And I didn't really know at this point what I signed myself up for, but boy, was I glad that I made this choice and Capital One had taken me on. So my journey at Capital One. So how FDM scheme worked was for the first 2 years, you're contracted out to whatever company decides to take you on. In that 2 years, I did various number of different things as I tried to progress my way to becoming a senior quality engineer at the end of that 2 years. So I had various different opportunities. So some of them were leading on different projects. So since Capital One is a credit card company, I got to lead on the testing side of things for introducing new sort of credit limit increases for customers, all the way to Capital One having a partnership with Post Office, for example, and even integrating with complex third parties as well for the financial side of things. So it was really great opportunities there. I was really grateful enough to be able to mentor people as well. So I started off mentoring an intern, then I went on to mentor a grad, and I also went on to mentor people who were on the next cohort of the FDM scheme as well, which was really rewarding because it felt like I'd sort of come full circle and I'd been able to help the next sort of group who were onboarding to Capital One. I also got to be part of the overall sort of web community as well. So I got to host and lead on the agenda for our community of practice, where I was able to help not only help define and run the community of practice as well, but I was able to help define the roadmap for the whole web community as well, which was really great to see. And it was really nice just to be able to be in that position where I could sort of influence others and help drive things along. That's always, I guess, bugged me as an engineer, and I wanted to help others, improve in that space. And that's sort of what helped me become, I guess, a senior quality engineer. So for me, progressing from senior to principal quality engineer, that's when I started taking on more complex sort of projects, more complex integrations, for example. So it wasn't just potentially just testing maybe just the UI side of things, maybe with the back end. It was working with more external third parties at this point, several external third parties as well. Also looking at improvement, not just at a team level or several teams, but looking at the whole web community itself. What could I do to improve quality overall and impact what could I do to have an impact on everyone else? I started looking at strategies around introducing browser and device testing, but in an automated way. Started looking at strategy around this as well. And that helped me sort of progress to the next level, which was the principal quality engineer, and working with several different quality engineers across not just web, but across mobile as well, and services, so our backend services. Whilst I was a principal quality engineer, I was really lucky to get the opportunity where I could step into people leadership as well. So something I knew for a while since I guess sort of started mentoring was that I wanted to help other people. And I knew that management was sort of the route that I eventually wanted to take. So whilst I was a principal quality engineer in my team, I had the opportunity to manage other quality engineers in my team as well. And that was sort of to give me, I guess, the opportunity to sort of dip my toes into management, see if it was for me, see if I enjoyed it, see if I was any good at it as well, but also still have that sort of opportunity where I can still work on technical projects. I can still develop my coding skills. So for any reason I decided, actually, no, management isn't my cup of tea, then I could at least take a step back and try and stick with the technical route. So at this point, I got sort of exposure to having those one-to-ones, seeing what performance appraisals look like, sort of moving away from, rather than mentoring people, like learning how to coach individuals as well in my team, and just seeing a completely different perspective of this. And whilst doing this, I realized how much I actually loved managing people and just seeing people progress in their careers, and knowing that I could just help them a little bit or advise them in some way, or help them get to, I guess, their end goals, and just sort of, guide them in the right direction. And that helped me get to the sort of next sort of phase of my career, which was officially stepping into the position of being a quality engineering manager. So this is when I officially took a step back from being within a team. I sat at tribe level, which was looking after the quality for several different teams. This wasn't being as hands-on as I was used to, but now it was looking after the overall strategy of how we approach quality for different projects, and not just for web anymore, but for mobile and for services. I also got to be more involved in other domains as well, such as mobile, where I became sort of the engineering manager for the QA mobile domain, and I helped lead on the roadmap for that and just drive those changes through as well, through their community practice as well. And as well as doing this, of course, sticking with like the whole managing people as well. That was why I moved into this role, and I really wanted to stay with that. But as I got to this point, naturally, as you sometimes do with any sort of job, and when you're at a company for a while, I realized that I felt like I wanted a change. I wanted something a little bit different. Capital One was all I've ever known from a tech perspective. It was my first job in technology and as a QA engineer. So I really wanted to see if I could pick myself up, put myself in a completely different job. Well, not completely different, but quite a fairly different job, completely different industry, and just see if I could take all my knowledge and apply it somewhere else, and apply it to a company who was in quite a different position to what Capital One was in as well. But I'll get onto that in a minute. So before I talk about where I got to after Capital One, I want to focus on my challenges first. So of course, coming from a maths degree, I didn't have any sort of technical experience. I think I did one module to do with like computer sciencey sort of software stuff in my first semester of my first year, and it was on MATLAB. So not a lot of that was relevant to what I did. So I went into a job not really knowing anything about how to approach things. And because I was a web engineer as well, we were doing everything in JavaScript, and my training was in Java. So again, even some of my training wasn't applicable to what I was doing. So this was definitely a huge challenge of mine. And it was like learning a language. Anyone who has done it or is doing it, you can probably relate how difficult it is. So naturally coming with that was a steep learning curve, especially when you're in a team and you're expected to pick up stories, deliver them in a sprint, if anyone works in an agile manner, and trying to learn as you're integrating within the team, and trying to do several other things. It's not easy, to say the least. Not having a clear direction as well. So I think I went into sort of QA, but I only really heard of testing once I was interviewed by Capital One. So really trying to understand what quality meant, why we were doing the testing, the different types of testing, how does the test strategy fit into it? What does my long-term career goals mean at this point? There were so many questions I had, and sometimes I just didn't know who to turn to, especially when you join a new company. And with me, I moved cities as well, so I didn't really know anyone in the city. You don't know anyone there. You kind of end up having that very typical sort of imposter syndrome, where you start to question, why was I hired? Should I be here? When are they going to figure out that I can't do this job, or I don't know how to code? When is it going to happen? And you start having those thoughts, and that really annoying voice just sits in your head all the time. And off the back of that, I started to sort of almost go into my own shell. I'd noticed that I wasn't talking to people as much. I was a bit scared to even ask questions in like big team meetings, and I would only maybe talk to one or two people who I felt like I could maybe ask something about and not feel silly about it. So these were a lot of the things I initially felt in, like, I'd say the first 6 months of being there, and it took me a really long time to sort of get past this. So what did I do to sort of, try and change this, like, my experience? So first one was mentorship. So as again with Capital One, they have like a great sort of mentorship scheme set up, and I was really lucky to have someone who was so supportive, who would take out the time to walk me through the code, pair program with me, point me in the right direction, and give me good advice, and always try and almost, I guess, ground me a little bit as well. There was times where I'd be, I guess, like panicking a little bit, or you could tell that I was struggling. And really just sort of like help me understand, like, actually it's fine that you don't know everything right now, and we'll work on this together. And I think just having that support system helped me so much. Being empowered by leadership as well, I think sometimes people forget, but having a great manager goes such a long way for you. It really boosted my morale, having a manager who could almost take a step back from like where I was seeing things, and actually help me figure out like what opportunities to go after, what path to take. Without my manager, actually finding opportunities for me to like lead on projects, I don't think I would have, my confidence would have grew. And I don't think I would have been able to feel empowered or even start challenging other people on things that I was seeing until I got to be in that position itself. So having great leadership, it goes a long, long way. Team building as well. I think, like I mentioned, because I started to sort of go into a shell and not talk to many people, once we started having those sort of social activities where we'd do some sort of like team building, even if it was just playing like board games, like having that time where you weren't like talking about code or trying to refine a story or point a story or whatever it was, and you're just sort of socializing, really helped me sort of like almost become like, I guess, like friends with them. So when it comes to work stuff, you're just so much more calmer, and the conversation just flows a lot more naturally. And when you just naturally grow that network as well, so you have more people to sort of go and talk to and ask for help, and talking to people outside my team as well. So one thing I realized was the first sort of year, I definitely kept within my team. A lot of the things I worked on were very much team focused, and I got to a point about a year in, and my manager said, actually, I think you need to start talking to more people outside your team. Like if you were to ask people in your team, yeah, we know Renka, but outside the team, maybe not a lot of people know you. So you need to start networking a little bit more, working on other things, having that huger impact on, helping other teams as well, like share your knowledge, but doing it in an effective way. And that again really helped me as well. So if there was things that I wanted to work on, but maybe people in my team were busy on, I could go to another web team. If we were looking at testing something with the back-end services, I know what services team to go to. If I was looking at a new tool and I wanted to see what mobile was up to, I know who to go to in mobile now. So it just expanded your network, and it just helps you get things done so much more faster as well, in a more like efficient way. And of course, helping others as well. That was a huge one for me. So I mentioned before, like I stepped into management because I enjoyed mentoring so much. But because I had such good mentorship to start off with, and I had such brilliant managers along the way, I naturally just felt like I wanted to almost give back to the community, sort of kind of why I'm here today as well. Like anything I could do to help other people on this journey, I think it was just, yeah, I'd love to just help other people. So yeah, I think that's really rewarding as well. Like when you're able to step into a place where you're comfortable enough, confident enough to feel like you can maybe pass something on or help people or guide them in a certain direction, maybe the guidance that you didn't receive. I think feels amazing. So what do I do now that I've moved on from Capital One? So yeah, like I mentioned, I work at Admiral. I'm still in the people management side of things. That's definitely something I don't want to let go. So I manage several QA engineers across several different teams right now, and they are based all around the world. I'm very much involved in the strategy from the QA side of things. So in Admiral, we're working on bringing up our automation up to speed, migrating over to different tools. There's still a fair bit that we do sort of like manual testing. So there's a lot of the things that we're looking into implementing this year. And it's really amazing just to be involved in that, rather when from what I guess I'm used to previously, where I'm just sort of being like told like this is what we're doing, and I'll be doing the coding side of things. Now I'm actually part of those decisions, which has been like amazing to be involved in, and just try and like help define that and improve things for others. Working with teams as well. I work with an amazing team. The team's called Cookie Monster. I named the team, so I'm going to take full credit for it. But yeah, they're amazing, and I've been involved in like improving like ways of working, just how we in general can just to be the best versions of ourselves. And recruitment as well. We did a lot of recruitment last year, and it's been great just to be on the other side of things, helping improve the recruitment process for helping hire the best sort of talent as well at Admiral. We've been doing a lot of change. So we've like changed the name of our roles recently from automation engineer to quality engineer as well. So just those little sort of touches, but really trying to drive in like a lot of that talent. Hackathons as well. So some of the things I wanted to call out was like some of the things you typically wouldn't expect a test manager to do. So I had the opportunity to be involved in our business-wide hackathon last year, where I got to drive like the communication piece of it. And just in general, like as a manager, you were able to get involved as well, do the coding side of things, which you typically might not get to do on a day-to-day basis. But it was really great just to be involved in that and see the end product of that as well. Conferences as well. It's like something that's great about Admiral is the budget that we get to go and do all the training we want, read however many books you want, and attend conferences as well. And I had attended a couple of conferences last year, one to do with QA and women in tech as well. And it was just great to be given that opportunity, but not only be given that opportunity, but be able to take that information, bring it back and see it applied as well within the company. People have been really open about hearing what other companies are working on. So that's been really great to see. But we've also got like a woman in tech and a diversity and inclusion groups as well. So I'm part of both of them right now. As part of the women in tech, something that I've been working on is trying to increase, I guess, the number of women we do have in technology, but starting at even an earlier stage, so going even before secondary schools, but going to primary schools as well, doing those talks and actually showing people like we are, like there's real people in the working world, like it's not what you might typically think it is, and there's all these different roles in technology and just in general, trying to encourage more women into tech, and diversity and inclusion as well. So something that I've been exploring is how do we recruit a more diverse pool of candidates and how do we retain them as well, especially as we go higher up the leadership. It seems to sometimes decrease the diversity we've got across many different companies. So we're trying to look into how to retain that talent and just increase that diversity. So that's on a very high level, like a lot of the things that I do at Admiral. So what makes a good quality engineer? And what I really wanted to talk about was not the typical things you might see. So if you were to look at a job description, for example, you might see quality engineer, the technical skills that are maybe right at the top, or communication. But the stuff that I sort of, I guess, going to talk about is stuff that I personally, from my experience, I think makes a good quality engineer and what I sort of look for in recruitment as well. I thought it would just be an interesting piece. Curious, see the little cat pun here. Yeah, crazy cat lady. So yes, understanding the building blocks of the application. So something that really helped me when I was a quality engineer was actually taking a step back from just defining test cases and test scenarios and really understanding what the developers are working on. Once you know what they are building and how they are building it, it makes testing so much more easier. You know exactly where the pain points might be, or the integration is going to be, or the highest risks are. And you even get that opportunity to work with them and figure out actually what you're building, is that testable? So really integrating the foundations of testing right at the start and just being curious, like how are they doing it, and learning about it as well, I think is a great opportunity. The next one is gathering and producing information. So I think sometimes what we forget is one of the, I guess, like responsibilities of QA is to like produce that information, whether it's through a test report or communicating that in a go or no go session. We are going away, checking that the things that we expect to happen are happening and bringing that information back. So being curious, like, are the right things happening? Is it the right quality? Is it meeting the bar that we expect it to meet? Really questioning and challenging things, I think, is such a key part of the role as well. And the last point of this is QA equals question asker. So I know QA in the community, a lot of people associate it with quality assurance, but what I love seeing QA as is question asker. I think a huge part of the role is going out and checking or just asking, are the right things being done? How are you developing this? Where are we testing this? When should we be testing this? What types of testing are we doing? Those sort of questions I think are so important. Just feeling just empowered, to be able to ask those questions and making sure you've got all the right information to go ahead to do all the whatever testing that you want to do. So being curious is a big one for me. Next one is advocate. So I think for me, this is around quality narrative. So quality narrative, the way I define it is, it's the way that people think and talk about quality in the company. So if in your company there is some misconceptions around what testing is, what quality is, then naturally the morale is going to be low. You're not going to feel great about your test suite. You're not going to feel great when you're releasing into production. The confidence is going to be low. So changing this narrative, if you are someone who's in a position to advocate for quality, to try and improve it, push it along, get it into a place where you're proud of it. And if you can shout up about that, find your allies, that doesn't just have to be QAs, it could be the developers, your team leader, managers, product owners. You're really in a great position to change that narrative and how people see it. And I think being an advocate for this, I think it goes such a long way for quality as a whole. Being that catalyst as well for quality practices. Again, you're being a QA engineer, you get, hopefully you get some time to look into new things, to push those best practices forward. Hopefully you have a community as well, to sort of talk about things that you're doing or things that you might have done, like a refactor in your code, for example. So again, really advocating for the quality of your code as well, to make sure that your tests are in a really good position. Next one is customer value. So I think sometimes when we're writing all these test scenarios, we're doing test cases, we forget that what the reason we're doing this is for our customers, whether it's internally, externally, whoever it may be. At the end of the day, our quality is actually assessed by our customer experience. If they're having a bad experience, it almost comes back down to the quality of the application. So really always keep in the back of your mind, if I was the customer, how would this journey feel for me? And again, keeping that's when the quality sort of point comes back into it. Taking a risk-based approach as well. Again, I'm talk about this in a little bit of detail later, but sometimes when we think about quality, we think about having 100% test coverage. And if everything's automated, that means everything will be perfect and the quality bar is amazing. But I think, again, it's just having a look from a different lens. Have we covered everything? That's the highest risk that a customer could face. Just taking a sort of a step back and seeing if the riskiest things have been covered. And again, that would feed into the quality side of things. And the last one is just early and continuous testing. This is not to say that you can't do any testing later down the cycle, but of course, the earlier you do it, and as you keep doing it, as you go along through that software delivery life cycle, the more chances you have of finding those bugs. And again, just increasing the quality, and not keeping anything, I guess, until the last minute just before you're about to go into production. So the earlier, the better. And the last one is empowering developers. So again, this was based on my experience as well. So when I was an engineer, I was really lucky enough to have the opportunity to work with developers who were so appreciative of the quality engineering role. And were quite open as well to like wanting to know more about it, and vice versa for me. I've always wanted to know more about development as well. And I've always believed that quality comes from not just the quality engineers, but it's the whole team itself. You've got to have it built up internally. So this is where you're, as a quality engineer, when you feel like you're in that point where you're comfortable enough to sort of, I guess, almost like mentor developers, encouraging them to taking on testing work as well, and vice versa as well, taking on development work. This gives them the opportunity to sort of step into your shoes, see the problems that you're facing on a day-to-day basis, how you're approaching testing, and it even changes their mindset as well to when they're developing. So they know the things that you're looking out for, and maybe they're developing things in a different way now. And they bear in mind as well when they're developing stuff, the stuff that you're going to be testing. So it sort of goes both ways as well. And as you sort of step into this role, the QA role eventually, I think, naturally starts to evolve as well. You go from just being that person who's writing all the tests, but sort of becoming a form of coach. You're helping them learn something new. You're learning something new at the same time, and you're potentially even freeing up your own time to go off and look into new things, whether that is a new way, a new tool, or a new framework, or a new way to even write tests, for example. And I think the great one about this is like it's showing that QA is not the gatekeeper anymore. It is, like I said, if you're bringing that quality into the team, and it isn't just QAs doing it anymore, the whole team has a responsibility. Of course, the QAs are there to, give a sanity check, provide advice, those PR reviews, but they aren't the people that sort of, as some people would typically think, they're standing in the way of you going into production. Now it's the team's responsibility, and everyone's sort of been able to see like the experience of a tester. So in my experience, sort of working really close with the developers and giving them the opportunity to try things, and the other way as well, has gone like a really long way for me. Cool. So the next topic I wanted to talk about was manual versus automation testing. And this is a really interesting one, because when I first started putting these slides together, this is what I originally had written up. And then as I started doing a little bit more research and almost educating myself like on the various topics, I actually realized it's not manual versus automation testing. It's actually manual and automation testing complement each other. So I thought it'll be really interesting to talk about this. So what is automation? This might feel like quite an obvious question for anyone who does work in automation right now, but I thought it'd be good just to have a recap. So it is the process of taking sort of repeatable testing actions, typically carried out by humans. That would be like manual testing, for example, but now you're setting them up on a machine, so a computer, to carry out instead. And typically we use some sort of codes or some sort of testing scripts to do this. But what does this actually mean, and why do we need to do this? What's the value we get from it? So let's have a look into that. So typically we do automation to verify behavior. So you'll have like product owners, they'll provide you these clear-cut expectations. This is how I expect this page to behave. And you'd write some sort of automation, and then the computer knows exactly what to check, and they'll sort of spit out whether it's passed or failed or not. Automation, typically you're doing it to help you succeed in agile as well. So helping you speed up things, keeping that consistency as well, having your regression test packs, which you can count on to rerun every single time. They'll run the same test, and it will give you that sense of confidence if you should maybe proceed to the next stage of an environment or even go to production. But I think one thing I really wanted to sort of focus on here was, and I think I've mentioned this a little bit before, is you can't automate everything. I think a lot of people have maybe a misconception around automation, that it is the magic answer to all your problems, and once you've got some automation set up, then that is it. You can sort of run that regression test suite for any particular change you've got. You don't have to do any other type of testing, and you can then move on to production. And that was one of the topics I wanted to sort of focus on today, off the back of like sort of the research that I've been doing. What automation should really be doing is freeing up your time, and that time should be freed up for more of the manual and exploratory side of things. And those are the sort of things that are going to build up the culture of quality within your organization and help you sort of make those strategic decisions and how to improve quality for customers. So before I start talking about this, yeah, just a bit of food for thought here as well. Something I read and it sort of made me think as well. We're always calling out QA engineers testers, automation testers, but why don't we call developers who write unit tests automation testers as well? So just a bit of food for thought there. But yeah, just on the exploratory side of things, before I get into that, I want to talk about where you can actually use your automation to expand your reach. So first of all, I think automation, it should be used when it's advancing your mission of testing. So typically doing things that you wouldn't be doing for manual testing. So that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be those conversations where you have, it shouldn't be those conversations where you're thinking, oh, okay, we're going to automate everything and we only leave the things to manual where we know we can't automate it. It should be a good balance of things. Automation should also be to help run tests, which we know are going to be quite expensive to do manually or even impossible to do manually as well. It should be test suites which are run quite frequently. So like I mentioned, having those sort of regression test suites where you've maybe got a good bulk of tests that you know you're running quite regularly. It'll be quite time consuming to do them manually. So let's put them into a test suite, and they're quite repetitive scenarios as well. And it gives you a great opportunity to run multiple tests at once as well. So if you've got like different combinations of things, it's a great opportunity to sort of put it into a test suite and save a bunch of time. Some examples of like when to use automation that I've seen from my experience. So low performance testing. So for anyone who's not familiar with low performance testing, it's typically taking the load that your application or website would receive and hitting it with that particular load and just seeing how it behaves. You wouldn't be able to sort of do this manually because you might be sitting there clicking a button like 2,000 times, which just it is impossible, and it isn't the best use of time. SOAP performance test is another great one as well. So SOAP performance test is taking your application, again hitting you with some sort of load for a long period of time. Again, this could be over 12-hour period. So again, it's just not great use of manual testing time. So it's a great opportunity to automate it. and testing for different sort of configs and combinations as well. Sometimes you've got so many different testing scenarios. So say, for example, you had a page which had a form on there. You could be testing for different sort of fields, different characters, numbers, letters. You could be there for a while doing that, and that could be quite time consuming, which essentially equates to being taking up someone's time, and that's essentially that becomes expensive. So if we can automate it, run that a lot more quickly and see if those particular scenarios work, it saves a bunch of time as well. So that's me talking about changing the narrative of going from let's automate and everything. But some of you might be wondering, okay, so how does manual testing fit into this? What should we be doing? Where does the exploratory testing fit into this that I mentioned earlier on as well? And my narrative is, I think there should be a healthy mix of scripted tests, so that's the automation side of things, and the investigative tests as well, which I'm going to talk about a little bit now. So first of all, before I get into exploratory testing, I want to talk a little bit about the manual testing side of things. So again, when I was doing some of my research, I've been reading like a lot of blogs and books as well. There was quite a few bad connotations around manual testing. And even when I've spoken to manual testers before, a lot of them say, well, no, I'm just a manual tester, or I need to be able to learn code, be able to progress through my career. You also have a lot of bad connotations around where stakeholders might think manual testers, if you're saying something has to be manual tested, it takes too long to do. So typically you find all these negative sort of feelings around manual testing, and it was something that I wanted to change because I think there's so much value to this. And I think it should be viewed in a different light, and I definitely do view it in a different light now. I think sometimes it's sort of forgotten the skills that are required to do manual testing. So the in-depth knowledge you need to have of an application to know where to go and what to look for and what test cases to write. That sort of critical thinking as well that comes into it. And that communication piece is so vital as well. With automation, you can just generate a report and show a stakeholder, but with manual testing, you've really got to be able to communicate across what something feels like from a user perspective, and if that feels right to you. You've also got to be able to communicate all the different test scenarios that you're creating. And even with automation, there's always going to be that manual sense to it as well. Just creating those test cases, always creating a testing strategy. So I don't think we're ever going to escape the manual side of things, but I definitely think that it could be viewed in a different light. And I think it's that sort of human touch that comes with it as well. So what you don't get with automation is sort of having someone sitting there and actually experiencing what a real user would feel. A computer would typically just do whatever you tell it to do, and then it will tell you the results of that. But with a manual tester, you get a lot more to that, and it's sort of thinking outside the box as well, and that creative thinking that comes into it, which I think is so valuable that you don't get from a machine. And I think just saying manual testing versus automation testing is almost oversimplifying the different types of testing we've got in the community. I think there's so much more to this, and it's something that I've definitely become an advocate for now. So preaching my own words, and it's something that I would definitely encourage QA engineers in my teams to do more of as well. So the much awaited power of exploratory testing. So again, I think when people think of exploratory testing, it's sometimes mixed up with manual testing. They assume it's the exact same as manual testing or even ad hoc testing. So exploratory testing is a subset of manual testing. You do it manually, but the aim is that you be able to explore an application, but without a prescriptive route. So there isn't sort of any test cases defined for you. The way is the opportunity exploratory testing gives you is it's that time where you can go to an application, simultaneously learn about the application as well as designing more test cases as well. So as you get to see what a particular page does or a button does, you'll realize there's actually a lot more to it than maybe the initial requirements that were given to you. And like they say, you don't know what you don't know. So it helps you identify those unknowns as well, things you weren't aware of come across quite nicely in exploratory testing as well. And it's also that short feedback loop as well. So with automation, you might spend a lot of time defining your scenarios, writing them, getting it merged in. But with exploratory testing, within maybe 10 to 15 minutes, you're able to see if something's wrong with that application and report that back as well. And what automation can't get a feel for is, does it flow correctly? It would just give you a simple yes or no, but exploratory tester is a real person sitting there and actually being able to go and explore that application. So exploratory testing rewards curiosity with information. So that was just something that stuck out to me that I wanted to highlight. So how to approach this? My recommendation would be start off with a risk-first approach. So really focus on what the risks are, have a chat with your product manager about this, and come up with some sort of risk exploration goal. This is sometimes known as a test charter, so you know exactly which areas to focus on. Then I would suggest maybe pairing up with another QA engineer and time boxing this, not spending too long. Because as some people might be aware, like once you start exploring one thing, it leads on to another thing and you could be there for a while. So really time boxing it to a short amount of time. And whilst you're doing that, writing down your observations, even if there were things that you didn't get to explore, make a note of those so you can use that for another exploratory testing session. And then debrief as well. So with the debrief, talking to developers, product managers, whoever it may be, really setting the context of what you focused on, what went well in that exploratory testing session, anything that you might not be sure about as well. So really calling that out, and any concerns that you might have as well. So something doesn't feel right. This is the perfect way to sort of use that session and use the outcomes of that session to highlight that to other people. So lastly, my summary. So I know I've spoken for a while now, so I will shut up in a minute, but my last summary is never too late to make the change. So as I mentioned, I went through a career change, went through the sort of, the journey of learning different languages and to becoming a manager, changing jobs. So it's never too late for anyone to sort of make that change. There's plenty of people out there, hopefully, to help, and plenty of resources as well. For me, the best way to sort of get past my challenges was like throwing myself into the code. I'm very much a hands-on person, so I learned through making mistakes, seeing code in practice, and building that community was really key to me as well. Having that support system, both leadership and mentorship wise, helped me so much just getting through my journey. Quality engineering is so much more than testing as well. So as I mentioned, with all the different skills, it's not just the technical side of things as well. There's curiosity, there's advocating for people as well, and empowering others. And lastly is just hopefully, if anyone's taken something away from this, it's like, let's change the narrative. It's not automation versus manual testing anymore. It is they complement each other. And of course, exploratory testing is so powerful in that sense. And that was everything for me. So thank you very much, everyone. I realized I spoke for a very long time then. Has anyone got any questions?
Okay, that was a really good talk. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no worries. Stop sharing. I'm gonna take a big gulp of water as well.
Yeah, has anybody got any questions they would like to ask? This is the absolute perfect opportunity. If you want to come off your mic and ask, or ask in the chat, that's completely up to you. I would definitely take this opportunity.
Yeah, I'll go for the first question. Pooja, I see that you have changed your roles frequently at one company. So what do you think your top secret for that? I mean, switching jobs so fast and stepping up to the next best role?
Oh, I don't know if I've got like a secret sauce or anything. I'd love to say I did and I could sell that. That would be amazing. In terms of like my progression, yeah, I guess it wasn't so much changing job. It was more sort of like going from engineer into management. And I think a lot of that was me going out and looking for opportunities for myself. So I mentioned that my manager helped me so much in the beginning, helping me sort of step into leading on projects. But it was sort of like, once I got a taste for that, I sort of knew like, this is what I want to do and I want to put myself forward. So when there were opportunities to lead on a project, I would happily volunteer and say, yep, I might not know anything about this. I've never done this before, but I want to learn more about it. And I think putting myself in those positions where I weren't familiar with things, I was quite uncomfortable at time. That was probably the best place I could grow. And because I constantly kept doing that, even with like I mentioned, the developer work, like that was something so new to me. I think that really helped me just sort of expand my knowledge and help me naturally find more opportunities as well. And just with that networking side of this as well, side of things, because I started to work on things that weren't just specific to my team, more people started to get to know me, I guess started to recognize what I was contributing to the community and help me sort of, I guess, progress like into management. But yeah, I'd 100% recommend talking to your manager or your team leader, whoever it may be, let them know what you want to do, and really trying to define a plan as well for your career goals. I always knew that I wanted to be a manager. It was just trying to figure out what those building blocks were to get there. Not sure if that helps in any way.
Yeah. So your secret is basically volunteering for opportunities that comes to you. And
absolutely, yeah. I'm going out and finding them as well. There were things that didn't come to me, but I could see that we needed to improve on, like automating browser and device testing. Like that was something I was quite passionate about, and there wasn't much focus on it, but I knew I wanted to work on it, and that naturally started to get more traction. So just finding your own things, whatever you're interested in, and just pushing it forward.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, your whole thing is insightful and helpful. Thank you.
No worries. I'm glad I could help.
We have a question from Dimitri. What piece of advice would you give to a person who wants to move from manual QA to automation?
Yeah, so I think naturally, first thing I would say is the quality side of things. Really making sure that you know why you want to make that move. I think if you're starting off as a manual tester right now, don't leave that knowledge behind. Taking through the in-depth sort of mindset that you've got, that you're quite inquisitive, you've got that sort of in-depth sort of critical sort of thinking sort of behind you, and really being able to apply that to when you actually go into the technical side of things. And I think that probably leads on to my second point, actually learning how to do the technical side of things as well. It kind of depends on how you learn. I'm very much a person, I don't learn from like watching videos. I'm very much like hands-on person, like doing sort of like labs and stuff. So it kind of, it depends on how you like to learn. I know some of the things that some of my engineers who I manage have recommended are, I think it's Udemy and Pluralsight. They quite a few videos on there. There might be some labs on there as well if you prefer to sort of do things a little bit more hands-on. But yeah, I think I'd definitely say keep in mind everything you've learned so far, slowly learning the technical side of things, and any sort of like hands-on experience you can get, I think will be really beneficial. I know, like I mentioned, I stepped into the role using FDM because they offered an opportunity to people who haven't had that experience. So maybe one of those schemes could be something you look into. But saying that, there's plenty of companies who offer opportunities as well.
I might pipe up on that one as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you've got any recommendations.
To kind of even plug in within QABC with a QABC thing. I did a tutorial, I think beginning of last year. So one of my favorite tools that got me into automation is called Selenium IDE. It's literally a point and click automation sort of tool. So again, it works again with the manual testing part. You would do it as if you were the user or the manual testing. You click, it'll record everything that you do. But then it'll create a nice little frame for you. So then you can change the data within that. And you don't need to really know code to do it. But as long as you kind of know what the kind of like values are and things like that, you can then change them, then start if you want to write your own. It's a really nice little way to get into automation. I found it really useful when I very first started. And then I got the bug for it. That wasn't fun. And I've kind of progressed on to the Cypress, which I think is a really good automation test frame. But Yes, Lame IDE, I think it's a really nice little beginner's tool. I've always found it if you're kind of unsure of things. So yeah, you just point and click and just play it back, then look at the kind of look at how it's written and how it writes. I think it's CSS it writes in, so that's kind of really easy to a bit easier to understand. So yeah, that's my 2 cents into that one.
Yeah.
And we have, I can't scroll on the beach chat properly. Next question is, what is the best testing book you've read?
Oh, what's it called? I might need to Google it. There was this one I read recently that I really liked. Oh, it's a quality of something. Give me a sec, I'm going to Google it. I have a really bad memory. I really should have kept it downstairs.
I suppose while you're going, the other question came from the famous person. How would you describe a quality culture?
Oh, that's a good question. Just trying to find the book. I can't seem to find the book now. Okay, I will come back to that in a second. Hopefully it will come back to me what that book was called. How I would define a quality culture. For me, I think it would encompass some of the things that I've spoken about today. So it wouldn't just be focus on complete automation. It wouldn't be that sort of narrative that I mentioned where it's let's automate everything. There would be a nice balance of let's take a risk first approach. Let's define our strategy before we sort of go all guns blazing in on automation, have a good mixture of manual testing and exploratory testing as well. And really having it driven by not just the QA engineers as well, having the developers in the mix and all the other managers into the mix and everyone sort of owning it rather than it just sort of being driven through maybe just the testers. I think that's what really helps sort of raise that quality gate, and where we sort of stop thinking about QA engineers just only doing testing, but there's so much more to that role as well. I'm still trying to remember the name of the book.
I've posted one now. It's one by James A. Whitaker. It's called Exploratory Software Testing. Tips, tricks, tools, and techniques to guide test design.
That's a brilliant one.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend that one. We do have another question.
I found my book. I'll put it in the chat. It's called Leading Quality.
Okay.
It's a really great read because it's such a short book. And you can get honest. I got through it in a couple of days. It was brilliant.
Next one I have is I've just completed my manual testing and I want to also learn automation as well. It's advisable to learn the two.
As in learn manual and automation at the same time? Let me just check the question. Okay, so if I've understood the question correctly, they're asking if they should learn manual testing and automation testing at the same time. If that's the question, then yeah, absolutely. That's how I got into QA. I was thrown in the deep end, pick up some automation tasks, and then whilst I was doing that as part of the story, there was always a sense of manual testing. So learning both of them, I think at the same time, I think will 100% benefit you in the long run. You'll get a good sense of how to approach things from a manual perspective, but also picking up those technical skills as well. And it's something quite common across the industry now as well. I think a lot of people are moving away from people just being, I guess, automation testers as a role. It is that quality sort of side of things that's coming into the name of roles, and quality encompasses the manual and exploratory side of things. So yeah, 100% I'd recommend learning both at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Is FDM training covered by the company or self-paid?
It is covered by the company. They will cover your training, but the caveat is while you're doing the training for the first 10 to 12 weeks, you won't be paid for that. So we'll be unpaid for the first couple of months, but then once you're placed somewhere, then you will be paid.
Sweet. Next one is, you said it's never too late to make a change. I'm finding it really hard to get my first manual tester role after a long, after a very long break. Can you point me in the right direction, please? I have retrained but have no experience.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Actually, this might actually be a better one for you because I know you work in recruitment. Is there any pointers you have in this one?
Okay, actually, this might be a scoring one for you.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, so it might be something we can help with. It might be worth me popping you my details because we do have a kind of spin-off brand called Clickstarters. So they help people that are trying to get back into the industry or have no experience and want to start out there. So obviously, I'd be more than happy to see any guidance we can give as well from that team.
Do you post a link in this chat for Clickstarters?
Definitely. I'll pop that in there. I'll pop my LinkedIn profile in there as well. And people can always connect with me for that.
Sweet. I suppose to read the next one, but that's the post I made, so I'm ignoring that one. You said to have a good balance between manual and exploratory testing. What's the difference between manual and exploratory testing?
Yeah, so exploratory testing, it's almost think of it as like a subset of manual testing. So exploratory testing, you are doing things manually, but with manual testing, it's more, I'd say, ad hoc. So you're sort of going in, you might not really have any sort of like purpose. You're just sort of going in, checking everything looks okay. But with exploratory, you've actually thought about what are the risks, you've set out a goal. You haven't defined what your test cases are, so you don't have any steps that you have to follow through, but you know, like maybe a particular area. So you say, for example, you were releasing, I don't know, a new page, and there was maybe something on there that was quite high risk to product. You would know to spend maybe the next half an hour just checking everything on that page looks okay. So you've got sort of a mission, you know what to focus on, you've got a particular time to do it, but there's no predefined steps. Manual, it's just you're going in, you don't really know what you're focusing on, you're just checking everything looks okay visually, for example, navigating through pages, you've done like maybe a quick sanity check, and that's sort of like how I'd say the main differences are. And with exploratory as well, it's a really good way to just learn as well whilst you're doing things. I'd recommend doing exploratory at the start. That gives you a really good experience of just learning what the application looks like, helping you define your test cases as well. Manual potentially could be done at the end as like a quick sanity check before you go into production. Or even after you've gone into production, sometimes you do like a quick manual check in live just to check everything looks okay. But that's sort of how I'd sum it up.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. Next one is, that's a good question. What do you enjoy most about your job?
Oh, okay. I mean, aside from the management side of things, which I've spoken about a couple of times now, I would say probably the strategy side of things. I think it's been really amazing just being able to have the opportunity to do things that I didn't get to do as an engineer and really drive things that I would have wanted as an engineer. And because of the way Admiral is, there's a lot of things that we're trying to. Admiral is an insurance company right now who's trying to become a technology company who sells insurance. So because we're so focused on technology, there's a lot going on in the space right now. And there's been so many opportunities to start thinking about all these different types of testing that we want to do that we're not doing, how to shift testing left into our teams and our tribes, and really just define like what we're going to be working on this year. So we had like a huge like planning session in December just to figure out what our goals were for this year. So it's been so amazing just to see like empowering like other QA engineers, see them like be so enthusiastic about like what we want to work on, like throwing themselves into it and actually seeing like the outcomes of that as well now. We're already starting to see the impact of like the things that we decided to do. So yeah, I think I really enjoy just being able to sort of like make a change and change for the good as well.
Excellent. Next one is, I'm scared to ask questions to developers working for 1 year in testing, but not getting good exposure. They're not giving task when an issue will come up for test reports. Okay. Any suggestions to overcome?
Okay. It sounds like there's potentially some issues with working with the developers. I think maybe think about how you're approaching the developers. I think from my experience, whenever I've like found a bug, for example, not to insinuate that you're doing this, that you're going in and saying, oh, look what you've done, or your code is crap, or you this and that. But how I've like typically approached it is sort of, I've mentioned that I've seen something, it doesn't feel right to me. Could you sit down with me? I just want to check that this is how it's actually meant to work. And it's almost that form of coaching as well. Like it gives them that opportunity to see what you're seeing, allows them to think in a different way. And if it is a bug, then you aren't sort of going in sort of like attacking the code that they've created. Again, not me insinuating that you're doing that, but it gives you that opportunity to sort of like work together and figure out what the problem is, and sitting with them and debugging as well. I think sometimes QA engineers find a bug and they'll pass it over to developers, but really actually being able to dig into the developer code with them and also work as a team, maybe that could help like change perspective on things. If it's maybe another problem, maybe it's just communication within itself, then yeah, maybe it's one to, I'm not sure if you do like any sort of like retrospectives in teams, maybe it's one to discuss, like maybe if you think there's another way that you can start discussing things with developers, maybe it might be worth like bringing it up and seeing what your team leader thinks. I'm not sure if you have any more advice on that, Chris.
Yeah, it's a tough one, that one, because again, with QAs, we do kind of get classed. There was a good article from Nicola I saw on Twitter. Sometimes we kind of come across like aggressive, but again, it's not, we're just passionate. We want the best for everyone, and it kind of gets open seen. Like sometimes it feels like an attack. It's not at all. We kind of, when we want the best for everybody, that's what I've always kind of seen as a QA role, is from literally from start, even before production has started, we've asked, again, as you rightly put, we ask QA's question askers, not quality assurance, because the times that we've found so many kind of potential bugs and got rid of them long before, because we've just asked those questions, kind of going, oh, when if you do this, what happens with that? They kind of go, oh yeah, fair point. This is why I'm such an advocate of doing, you mentioned about peer reviews or PRs. PRs are thinking, oh, they just do code reviews. Like, no, the developers, I won't even touch code. That I'll let them do their magic, because it's as much as I enjoy watching it, it's just kind of, nope, I'm lost. Do it like a visual represents, like, okay, have you thought about this? Have you tried that? Once if you do this, I'd rather they pick it up while it's still on local rather than come into the environment. Because then it's being more efficient, then it's more likely to go through tests quicker, because it's all been done, and they'll even fix it while it's in PR and on local as well. Watch them do it and kind of go, all right, how does it work? Perfect. Acceptance criteria has been met, previously met. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I'll merge it in, let me pull into environment, and I can take it from there. And most likely you won't find anything, unless it's like a really bizarre edge case scenario where it's a half moon, you sacrifice a goat, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, it'll kind of go through. And what I say about the points of liking your job is you get that amazing feedback from everybody, because you have paired and worked together, and it's a good reflection on the team, not just the individual as well. So yeah, it's trying to get a bit more pally chatty to actually build a rapport. Is the best thing I can, is like find something they're interested in, or you're the same as well, and just have a little chat with it. Kind of, but that's the best way, is like build that rapport. It can be tough, but you remember they're human as just as much as you, as frustrating as it can be, but they kind of bear that in mind. That's my 2 cents on it. Have we got anything else? Got the link. Oh, we have come to end of questions. Does anybody else have any questions they would like to ask? Again, please feel free to do this in the chat, or please come off mic and we can hear your lovely voice. I say sometimes silence is golden, but yeah, we do want to hear. So I have a question. I kind of touched on what automation tools I like to use. So what's your automation tool your go-to?
Oh, is it any particular testing type, or just my top favorite?
So okay, get your so you might run on your kind of like environment, like test environment. You've pulled something in, you want to do like an end-to-end or smoke test. You've run it by automation. What tool would you use?
Oh, okay. I'm probably in between two right now. You'd probably asked me a year ago. I would have said Cypress. Huge advocate of Cypress. Love it. Yeah, I can see I got your heart there. The other one, and this is actually since I've joined Admiral, is Playwright. I know there's been a lot of comparison.
Ooh.
Yeah, a lot of comparison with Cypress and Playwright now recently. I saw an interesting, I think it was someone put in Chat GPT, like a comparison of Cypress and Playwright the other day, and they're quite similar in a lot of ways, which is sort of why I'd be in between the two. Well, the only reason I'm leaning towards Playwright was because I know when I use Cypress, I think there was some browsers that I couldn't functionally test on. I don't know if it was Safari, or I could or couldn't test on Safari, but you can. Yeah, but you can do more browsers with Playwright. So just because I got that extra sort of coverage, and the way that the code looks on Playwright is quite similar to Cypress as well. And funnily enough, like my team is actually going through a migration right now from Protractor to Playwright, and I know how much they are loving it right now and how much it just seems to make sense to them. So just seeing them like enjoy coding so much now, I think, yeah, those probably be my top two for smoke test.
I mean, that's fair. It's like, yeah, with Cypress, I've noticed that you can't, even though I've got Safari downloaded on Mac, it doesn't show, but it'll go through Electron, which is quite funny. It's like, who uses it? No one. But all right, but I can't use Safari. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of what's your kind of also good go-to manual testing tool?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the one that I've typically used, both at Admiral and at previous company as well, was just using like X-ray tickets on Jira to sort of track the testing scenarios. That makes sense. So you have your ticket, you can create test cases on there, predefined steps, and you can use that to. There's like a function on there where you can like attach screenshots, so all your evidence is in one place. You also have a way to, I think that you can link it to like stories as well. You can like say if it's passed or failed, and there's like a great space you can come to afterwards. So if like you've got another story that comes up in the future, you want to do the same manual test, you can take a copy of it in Jira as well and attach it to that new test, that new story. So we've always found that quite useful. But if anyone's got any suggestions what else they use, I'd be really keen to hear about that. And exploratory testing as well. Oh, okay, I can see. I'll say exploratory testing, we've also used Jira as well. But again, I'd be very keen to hear if anyone's used anything different. I'm very much, in the space right now looking at other things. Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Yeah, so one of my kind of manual testing tools I love to use is to kind of be a bit more efficient is when you're kind of doing multi-browser testing. Ghost Lab.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
It's now free because you used to have to subscribe to it, but now it's free. So basically, you would put in the web browser you wanted to start. Your website you wanted to start with. So I always use Chrome as my controller for it because that's probably the main browser used, and that way you can spin up other browsers, including Safari as well. And whatever you do on Chrome will mimic on the rest of the browsers.
Oh, I know what you're talking. Yes, this rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of, obviously, you might have to go matrix style and have like 1 billion screens, or you kind of shrink them a little bit. So yeah, so rather than testing individually, let's say for the sake of argument, 15 minutes to sanity test. So that's sort of an hour if you're going to cover web browser on a laptop. Then you've got to think browser mobile. Again, scan QR code. I bought from eBay the Ghost Lab, like the board you could buy that you can stick devices onto. So
yeah,
there's an hour and a half saved. Scan it, just look at everything as you go along. So maybe 20 minutes to do an hour and a half job because you're just running everything at once. So yeah, that's Ghost Lab's a really good tool.
That does ring a bell. Yeah, I think I remember using it a couple of years ago, but I just forgot what it was called. So I'm definitely going to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's called a company called Vanacom or something like that. Because every time I go Ghost Lab, I always come up with a TV series. You know, it's a company called Vanacom, I think they're called. But someone bought them out, but they kept the website live, so you could just download the basics of Ghost Lab. It doesn't look as flashy as you see. It's just like literally a white page with a couple of links. It's not dodgy. It is what it is. Because they just stopped it. But yeah, you used to have to pay a subscription, but now it's free to use, which is amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, music to my ears. Love it.
I think someone else did come off you to ask a question, but I think I got there first, so I do apologize.
Hello.
Evening.
Hi. Sorry, I'm the guy that asked question about learning both the manual and the testing and the automation question. Thank you for clarifying that. Also, I wanted to ask, if you are doing like an integration testing and the software the company that is asking for that integration testing, and they're asking you to use the Postman, how would you go about using the Postman when, assuming the company they are doing like their software is mainly based on integration? That's what the majority of their product is, integration. How would you go about doing, because they are quite dodgy that they don't want someone fresh to touch their software, and I'm trying to prove to them that they can actually use Postman to do it, but they're a bit scared of trusting to go into it. How would you approach this kind of issue?
Okay. I think the first thing I would do is really drilling down into what is it that they're worried about. So if you mentioned that they're worried about people, is it touching the new type of software or the integration points? I think once you've really got a really clear idea of what they're worried about, I think then it's putting that case forward of actually almost like debunking the things if possible, like showing, maybe even doing like a demo, maybe using like a dummy URL, whatever it might be, something that's like a sandbox environment, just to show them like, actually, if we were to do this, this is how it would look, this is the output of it, and what benefit that's providing as well. So whether it's saving time, saving money, whatever it might be, I think it's really important to show them that it's maybe not as concerning as they think it is, if that's the case, and really show them like the benefits they'll get out of it as well. I think those would be quite key, and really tailoring it towards your audience as well. It's always really key in these sort of situations, know how to influence the people that you're trying to get on your side. So if you know that they've got this certain thing they're going after, this year, certain, I don't know, goal or metric, whatever it may be, really tailor what you're going after towards that. That makes any sense.
Yeah, I posted the link for Ghost Lab. Oh no, I think they've scrapped it now. After that,
do you reckon they're on this call right now?
I bet they asked like, "We're still live. Get rid of it. Get rid of it." Yeah, I think they've got rid of it now completely. I only downloaded it a few months ago, and it was still live. Oh no, that's a shame. That's a shame, because it was such a good tool to use, and it saves so much time.
Oh no, we'll have to tweet them, get them to put it back up.
Bring the ghost back to life.
Yeah.
Oh, gutted. I don't know what to say to that one. I mean, the link's there as promised, but it don't work. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so sorry to call you in. Another question I have, Ashley, if I had to reach out to you, should I contact you directly to the link, or because I just gone to the link, should I contact you directly?
Yeah, have you got LinkedIn, or if not, I can provide my email address.
Yeah, I just sent you a link, a LinkedIn request now.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll accept that, and then yeah, we can exchange some messages on there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
The question from Ray, any possibility for an in-person meetup for the next one? Yes, there is. It's live on our meetup group for the 1st of March. So yes, there is a next one that's going to be in person for that one. That's actually a really good topic. It's going to be on the kind of psychology behind QAs and testing as well, the language. I think what we kind of touched on as well about how you kind of, when you have a bug, how do you kind of, without hurting feelings, how do you go back? So that's going to be a really good one. It's Rachel Crosby who's going to be hosting that one. So that's going to be a really good talk. So yes, bear in mind that all in-person ones are in Manchester, because as much as I would love to travel, no, I don't drive, so that's not happening. So yeah, all our meetup groups are based in Manchester. So if you're willing to fly from the USA and Texas, please go and feel free to join us. I will not be covering costs or fees, nothing like that. So out of your own pocket. If you could afford it, I would go to Texas and run a meetup, but that's not happening. Yes, it's a long way from Dallas. Please, any more questions? I mean, absolutely take the opportunity while we're here. This is one of the best engagements we've had, so keep them coming. We're in Manchester. It's Anne Coates. This one's going to be the CTI building. On the meetup group, there should be a pin as to exactly where it's going to be. It's not Manchester in the USA, Manchester UK. It's just, I didn't know I forgot there's a Manchester in the USA. So I nearly pinged it in the wrong place. That would be a long way to travel.
I didn't even know there was a Manchester in the USA. That's new.
Every day's a school day.
Yeah, it really is.
Yes, please, anyway, got anything to ask, or like any advice from Renka or myself, or even Ashley? Oh, why would you want to attend a City game? Are you just now in? Oh no! Why? Why did you ruin it? Why did it end like this? With the in-house with the in-house ones, we're not going to be live streaming. We are a little independent company. We haven't got quite the tech or the resources to really do it properly. Every time we try to do it, I think even kind of Ashley can confirm, something's always gone wrong. So yeah, we'll do our best to try and get it recorded and put up onto our YouTube channels, so nothing's been missed. Yeah, with the in-house ones, this is why we do switch between online sessions and in-house sessions. So we kind of keep in the house and online, so everyone happy. These people who can't make it to Manchester or in the house, we've got these online sessions that we can do. So yeah, keep everybody in the loop on everything QA in testing. Jenna City game, honestly. If there's nothing from anyone else, I want to say an absolutely massive thank you to Renka. Done an amazing job. Really enjoyed that presentation. Gonna share screen. Yeah, we're doing questions already. Oh, get rid of that. Oh, yeah, I'll let you back in. Yeah, so any questions? Yeah, we kind of covered that already. Yep, so we're on Twitter at QA Beginners Club. We're also on Instagram at QABC_MCR, and also on Facebook as well. I would like to give a shout out also. We are heavily supported by Ashley in Searchability. Thank you for the use of Zoom, even though I may be called Leah. I'm not, I am Chris. However, that's a weekend thing. And also helping us always get great speakers as well. So I'm forever grateful for that. Thank you very much, Ashley and Searchability. And we do have a Slack channel. Our workspace is qabeginnersclub.slack.com. However, the easiest thing is email us at qabcmcr@gmail.com. Then I can just send you an invite directly there. Then you can come join us. So we're trying to do a bit more mentorship this year, kind of doing that via Slack.
Forced to have British pass.
Sorry, I missed that. Sorry. Hello.
Maybe that was a mistake.
Okay, fair enough. Then. So yeah, if we're all done, thank you again.
Yes, thank you very much. Really good presentation. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Amazing.
thank you everyone for their time. And yeah, thank you the both of you for organising this. It's been great.
You're very welcome. Yep, okay, thank you very much. And hope you all enjoyed. And again, if you're venturing into Manchester on the 1st of March, we'd love you to see us there. If not, will it either be on the last Wednesday of March or the first Wednesday of April? That is to be confirmed, but that'll be up on the meetup shortly. So thank you everybody for your time, and have a great evening wherever you are in the world, or morning or afternoon, or just finishing your lunch.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, bye.